soon as you see the live button in the left
Like
corner.
we're live.
Here we go.
All right, 3, 2, 1, action. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see every pretty faces this morning. If you haven't chance to check in, please do so. If you don't have an app, you can download the app and please check in. Help us know that your attendance and helps us with our Kaufman Foundation to let us know that you're here. 1 Million Cups, for those who are new, a first-time attendee, it is a mastermind group founded by the Kaufman Foundation to help bring together entrepreneurs and business owners and to discuss business challenges and as a collective brainpower to solve those business challenges. There are over 160 chapters all across the country that meet on Wednesday mornings. And our aim is to build an inclusive and supportive community for entrepreneurs. And I think that's what makes 1 Million Cups a unique community. And by coming together as entrepreneurs and business owners, we create a safe and supportive environment that are inclusive and diverse. Everyone has a voice. We don't let one person dominate the conversation, but at the same time, please be respectful and considerate of others. Next slide. This is a voluntary focus group, and it's made up of you, the entrepreneurs, and there are several of us as organizers of 1 Million Cups that give a few hours a week to make this event happen on a local basis. So we encourage all of you to get involved. The way you do that is to attend each week, and obviously you're doing that this morning. And also provide feedback when we get into the presentation segment of our meeting this morning. Please actively involved in the discussion and also engage online. Share our event on your social media pages, and finally invite your colleagues and your clients to this fantastic meeting. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we can have made this possible without the sponsors. While we're meeting in person prior to COVID, Office Evolution has been the space sponsor. Office Evolution is a co-working space provider in Tysons. So if you'd like to learn more about Office Evolution, please feel free to reach out to me directly. And also, I also want to recognize our coffee sponsor. Traditionally, they provide the coffee while we're meeting in person, but while we're meeting in Zoom, you can have your own coffee at the comfort of your home. But with that, let me ask Bill to say a few words about Airport Jewel, who's our coffee sponsor for the month of August. Bill?
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be the virtual coffee sponsor. I think I'll be first in line when we actually get back together to be a real coffee sponsor, maybe actually bring you some coffee. But yes, my name is Bill Hoisington with Airport Jewel. I build websites and dynamic web applications and provide digital marketing services. I'm going to rebrand from Airport Jewel to Web Aptly, so you'll probably see me with the name Web Aptly in the next few months. But good to see everyone this morning, and thank you again. I'll pass it back to John.
All right, great. I think we're okay. So let me just kind of walk through how the virtual meetings work. So in a minute, we're gonna get into our presentation segment, but I just want to remind everybody to keep your phones on mute or your phones in silent mode, and also when we get into that conversation, you can either raise your hand virtually or chat your question in. And so with that, let me turn it over to our moderator for this morning, who is, I believe, Myosha.
Yes, hello. I'm the moderator, but I think I start talking after the presentation.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. All right. So I think that's when we let me introduce Proceed.app, who's our keynote speaker for this morning. Andrew, who's a founder and CEO of Proceed.app, and so Andrew, let me turn it over to you for a few minutes of presentation and your challenge question. Andrew.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me today. It's super good to be here. I'm gonna share my screen, so give me just 1 second to do that. And if someone would want to maybe confirm with me that you guys can see my screen all right. Awesome. I'm not hearing any no's, so I think I'll go that you guys can hear it or see it just fine. So like John said, my name is Andrew Schmitz. I am the CEO and co-founder of Proceed.app. I'm an entrepreneur from Appleton, Wisconsin. So if there's one good thing that's come out of the pandemic, I will say it's being able to connect with you guys in this maybe non-traditional method through Zoom for 1MillionCups. But today I am here to talk about Proceed.app, which is a visual knowledge sharing platform built for small and medium-sized businesses. And oftentimes when I say this, people will ask me, well, what do you mean by visual knowledge sharing? Well, the best way isn't to tell you, it is to show you, as we are visual people here at Proceed. But here we have a side-by-side comparison. On the left, we have a typical text-based SOP, and on the right, we have a workflow that is built with Proceed.app. So small businesses use our app to create standard operating procedures, training materials, work guides, and other forms of knowledge sharing using photos and videos that they can very easily take through their phone. So we tend to work really well with manufacturing companies, food service businesses, trades and services, these kinds of hands-on deskless work companies. To give you kind of an idea of where we are in terms of traction, in summer of 2019, we developed our app. We're working with alpha users. In January, we started working with our early adopters, and we are currently pre-launch working with some early customers. And I'm always happy to answer more specific questions on our platform and our company during the Q&A. However, today I really want to kind of focus in on the origin story of Proceed.app, kind of why we are here and how we got to where we are today. So I've always loved creating, selling products as an individual, and I've always had that goal of, like many, providing value in other people's lives. And something else I've known about myself for a very long time is that I'm a visual learner through and through, and this has been both a challenge and a blessing in my life. From a challenge standpoint, obviously school and text-based assignments and reading was never fun for me, but as a blessing, my visual preferences have helped me kind of form my career around making better ways to display information visually. So I was working full-time in 2016 and I started a side hustle, like many of us do when getting started. And so I started managing process documentation and creating training materials for small businesses as a consultant. And I was known for creating training materials with lots of visual content, from training videos to private websites for training. I always use visuals in my work, and that's kind of what I was known for. While doing this, a project came up that required a little bit more time than I had available. So I had to kind of get a little bit creative with this client and came up with a solution. Typically, my process was I'd go on site with my camera, I'd shoot photos and videos for documenting their SOPs and building their training. But for this project, we coordinated with the key employees and leadership and had them actually send me photos and videos via text and email. And then I would edit them and upload them to their training website. It was a lot to manage, but it was working pretty well, I would say. So after a few weeks of doing this, with getting into this project, I was actually at home kind of relaxing, unplugging one night and Snapchatting friends. And I'm sure many of you have heard of the Snapchat platform. And I realized, Snapchat is an incredible visual tool. You can send photos and videos really easily. You can add captions to visuals. You can even mark photos up and videos and add emojis and symbols. So I thought to myself, what if I could make or get my client to Snapchat me their content? So I said, what the heck, I'll try it. So we made a private Snapchat account. I showed the client how to post to the story of that Snapchat account. And then every night before the content would expire, I would log into that account and download their content and then upload it to their training website. So the project wrapped up really well, had a very happy client. And I ended up doing this again with a couple other clients. In the meantime, I was also doing some research in hopes of finding a platform that would kind of do this already. But this is when I realized that, maybe we had an opportunity here. So I started considering the leap. I weighed a few metrics in my life, including like health insurance, savings, the amount of liabilities that I currently had. And so in March of 2019, I quit my job and we started Proceed.app. So I spent from March to May finding a dev team, conducting market research and interviews. We officially registered our business in May of last year. We built an MVP, a minimal viable product that we tested with alpha users during the summer. And then we launched our platform in January and started welcoming early adopters. Today, we have some amazing customers. We're working on that scaling process. So our ideal customers are small businesses that depend on hands-on knowledge and have big goals or need to navigate some kind of major change. This can be scaling, this could be franchising, streamlining operations, the mergers and acquisition space, succession planning, whatever it is. But basically, if you know a business owner, or maybe in your small business, if your training looks like this, we would love to talk about potentially seeing what a visual knowledge sharing platform looks like inside of your business. So my challenge question today, and I'm happy to answer really any questions or take any feedback, but my challenge question today, since we're working on our sales process and our sales funnel, while purchasing software in the past for your business, what has been some of the best and worst parts of the sales process? I'd love just any kind of insight into things that have worked really well for you as a prospect and things that you just didn't like at all. So any feedback like that would be really, really helpful to me today.
All right, great. Thank you, Andrew, for telling us about your business. And we're going to get into the Q&A or feedback section segment of our presentation. But before I do that, I want to encourage everyone to chat it in use the chat functionality to provide quickly, your company name and a brief description about your company. Fantastic challenge question. So with that, let me turn it over to Mayosha, who's going to help moderate the Q&A and the feedback segment of our presentation.
Thank you, John. That was a great presentation, Andrew. While I'm waiting for everybody to warm up to questions, which will take 1 or 2 minutes, tell us about your target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with small businesses, mainly small and medium-sized businesses. And the key thing that we like to identify whenever bringing on a new customer is what change are they hoping to work through. But typically the businesses that we work with are businesses that want some kind of change or have some kind of goal in mind. And the businesses also depend on some kind of hands-on knowledge or a deskless workforce. So maybe, their employees don't report to a desk or to a computer every day. Like an HVAC technician that goes on site, manufacturing employees that, work on the floor, any kind of business that depends on hands-on work.
That's great. Okay. So do you, how is everything going with you with the COVID? And have you changed your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. we've had positive and negative effect from COVID. In many ways, we help businesses navigate change and communicate through change. There's obviously a lot of change going on right now. And so it can actually be a really helpful way of getting through some of these changes that a lot of businesses are seeing. Part of our response to COVID was actually developing pre-made content that aligns to the CDC and OSHA standards for safely getting back to work. So we offered some pre-built training content to our clients. But on the other hand, we've also lost a few clients or a few small businesses that unfortunately won't make it through this. And I think that's a reality that every corner of this country is living through right now. And so those are really unfortunate, especially when you build a relationship with someone around their business. It's really tough to see them have to make tough decisions like that. But overall, I would say we're pivoting our way through COVID, which is, I think, what you have to do.
That's great. Yeah. Talmar has a question for you.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks so much for your presentation. Apologies for being late. It was one of those days. I love what you're doing, and it was really interesting. I'm just curious. So your ideal client, we talked a lot about, what business they're in, and I love the hands-on perspective. But generally, how many users will be needing that training for it to be really where they're at? Do you understand? Am I saying that correctly? I want to know how many franchisees would I need for this to be profitable, or how many, factory workers would I need for this to make sense in our business plan?
Yeah, for sure. So we are also going after small and medium-sized businesses. And of course, small and medium size is different for everyone. But typically, most of our customers actually fall under 49 employees.
Okay.
So really small businesses are who we have been working with.
Excellent.
When we talk about franchises, though, it's actually kind of a new market for us that we've recently discovered. So we're still learning about what franchises we tend to really work best with. However, right now our pricing is we want to grow with you. So we make it really reasonable. To talk real numbers, our pricing is for a few of the franchises we've worked with as low as $199 to $199 a year per location, to $399 a year per location. So that's kind of how we're modeling the franchise organization right now in terms of pricing.
If I may, I'll drop my information in there. I'd really love to connect with you. I'm a hiring strategy and boss best practices expert. So I literally am talking to people that are scaling. That's my audience. And so I want to follow up and see how we could work together.
That'd be awesome. I look forward to following up. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Talmar. Next, we have Bill, and after Bill, we have Rosemary. Bill?
Great presentation, Andrew. The product is a pretty cool idea. I'm a visual learner myself, and so I see the application for this. I also think that we all like to hear that story of someone who's started in one place and then refined it and then productized it into their own service here. So this is very cool. My thoughts were because I haven't done a lot of purchasing for business, so I'm not great to answer the ask, but what I wanted to mention was because it's such a cool idea, when you bring this or when you market this to the world, put a focus on the story for the end user. So we loved hearing your story, but when you market it, make them the hero, make the end client the hero, and put all the focus on them. And I think you'll do well. I mean, this is a very cool idea. I think it works for larger than 50-person companies. I think the application is ubiquitous. It can work anywhere. So good job, and those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that.
Great. Bill, thanks. Rosemary, and after Rosemary, we have Ken.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much for your presentation this morning. I actually know some folks that live in your neck of the woods, so it woke me up. Hey, Appleton, good morning. So I'm gonna speak directly to your challenge question. Are you looking to build a sales process, or are you looking to learn more about how to address a market segment? Let me start with that.
So always looking to refine our sales process. We definitely have one in place today, but you know, like every part of our business, as we learn things, new things, we pivot and make changes. So yeah, definitely looking to refine what we have today. And remind me the second part of your question. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The reason I ask is I wanted to clarify my comments a little bit. So my background is actually product development, operations support, sales operations support, marketing. And I will assume that as part of your product development, you've done some work on detailing what your ideal client looks like, what are the parameters of that client. And I think Bill touched on this a little bit, a couple of the comments touched on this. I want to bring the benefit of some of my training from pragmatic marketing, which is a product focused approach. You basically have two people that you're going to be selling to, or personas, right? Archetypes of people. One is called a user persona, and these are the people who are going to benefit from using your product. They have pain points that your product solves. And then you have a buyer persona. These are the people who make the decision to pay you money. Sometimes they're the same people. Most of the time they overlap to some degree. So the first part of the process is define your buyer persona and the check marks they need to tally up to agree to pay you money. And you've probably very much focused on the user persona, the pain points that you're solving. So your best and worst part of a sales process is to find out whose pain you're solving and then find out who's going to pay to make that pain go away. And then bring that to the table and start from, I understand the pain, tell me about your pain. Here's how we solve it. Are you should know if they're the buyer. And then the buyer will say, great, you're solving their pain, but I also need these things checked off. So really doing a little bit of homework before approaching the buyers or messaging to them, and then answering those questions in advance. Because when I'm approached by somebody, or when I used to coach my sales teams to approach someone, the people with the highest success rate always went that way. How do I check the boxes for a buyer? How do I solve the pain points for a user? And that's the whole picture. So if you can bring that whole picture into your sales process, then that's going to be kind of the win-win for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. I think just to kind of touch, because as you were talking, I'm thinking through like, okay, what are our pain points? Just for everyone else's reference, I think, it kind of varies depending on what business we're talking about. But here in Wisconsin, as you probably know, Rosemary, the area is very manufacturing focused. We're a heavy manufacturing hub. So when we talk to manufacturing companies, a lot of their pains right now are 60% of our workforce is up for retirement over the next 10 years. And so they have to, they're worried about knowledge loss, and they need a way of retaining this knowledge before it walks out the door.
Yeah.
So that's like the pain point that we talk to with a lot of business owners, especially. But the other point is, and you mentioned this as well, we do talk to a lot of end users and buyers, because when you talk to that under 50 headcount, a lot of times you're talking to an owner operator. Not always, but a lot of the times we do. But yeah, that's great feedback, and I was taking some notes here, so thank you.
I'll put more in the chat and a link to pragmatic marketing. There's a lot of free information available. I'll put my contact info is already in there, but feel free to reach out to me at any time to follow up as well. Good luck, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great meeting you.
Thanks, Rosemary. Ken, and after Ken, we have Phyllis.
Good morning. What a great story, moving from Snapchat into where you are now. Really good story, really interesting application, and I really like the idea. I'm going to try and directly address your question, but I'm not as smart or as experienced as people like Rosemary, so I'm just going to address it from my individual perspective. I'm assuming that you have competitors out there in the marketplace. Is that true?
For sure we do. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So as a software buyer, one of the really complicated pieces for me is competitive evaluation. And the other piece of it is that the big risk is not the cost of the buy, but the cost of implementation and the risk of failure. And so that smoothing the competitive analysis and then understanding those risks that the buyer is taking on would be, and addressing those risks in effective ways can really make a difference. Because if there is a competitive marketplace and you get 6 months into the implementation and have invested a whole pile of time and energy and money in implementation, and you find that, whoa, this is not where I ought to be. I ought to be with a competitor that I abandoned early on in the process. And so most software makes it hard to get out once you get in. So that's another aspect of it that's worth knowing about. Once somebody has got a lot of sunk costs, is it really hard to get out? But first and foremost is on the front end. How can you address competitive advantages, and how can you get past the costs or reassure about the costs on the front end? So that's my contribution. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I appreciate
I
that.
hope that's helpful.
Yeah, cost of implementation and risk of failure are two things that maybe we don't address enough in our sales process. So appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Phyllis.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for that presentation. I think you're onto something really big here. So to respond to your challenge question, one thing that really bothered me when I was looking for software in a former position relates to what Rosemary was saying, where it seemed like the salespeople were only talking to the management, the people with the money, and they weren't really addressing the concerns of the end users, the people who were looking for things. And I think part of it is because the software we were looking for was from really large companies. And so there was a complete disconnect between the salespeople and the developers and trainers. And so the salespeople had a vague idea or a general idea of their software could do. And they made a lot of promises like, oh yeah, we can do that. But then when we got the trainer in, it was pretty clear that they could not do that. And so that was just a really frustrating experience. So I guess in short, it's finding the balance between talking to both of the parties that Rosemary was talking about, and also making sure that your salespeople have a very good handle on the capabilities of your product.
Hey, thank you, Phyllis. Appreciate that.
Great. Thanks, Philip. Next, we have Alan Anderson, and after Alan, we have Jen Dalton. Alan.
Hopefully I have my mute off at this point. Since I spent 30 years selling software, I think I'll try to offer a few comments here. Rosemary gave some very good points. You got two buyers. One is the person who ends up using it, and the other person is the person who's got to pay for it. I have several just thoughts here. The first one is you need to identify for each user what their particular needs are. Again, so you have an end user, and then you have the person who's going to pay for it. My best example is when I was selling word processors many years ago. You had the secretary who had to use it, and then you had typically it was a lawyer that needed to buy it. but you need, and actually frequently it wasn't the lawyer, but lawyers were a primary target. But you needed to understand what the company's requirements were. I guess the best example was when I was selling to lawyers. If I went into a lawyer and I started talking to them about how we're going to use this system to generate or produce these documents for them, the lawyer immediately lost interest in the technology. You had to be talking about briefs, pleadings, articles of incorporation, standard documents, that kind of thing. So make sure that you're using the right terminology for each user. It's really important, and it makes them feel comfortable that you're going to be able to help them properly. And in a solutions-oriented sale, I'll make this comment: you have to identify the problem, make sure you identify it. You have to quantify the problem. You need to offer a solution, and then you need to cost justify it. And a very important aspect of that is the cost justification. You got to understand how that's going to benefit the secretary and how that's going to benefit the lawyer as well. And you have to make sure that you have a good demo, a good presentation, and a good elevator pitch. And I guess those are my comments.
Appreciate that, Alan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alan. Next, we have Jen Dalton, and after Jen, we have Manny. Who?
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks again for the presentation. I have a couple of disparate thoughts, so I'll go through them and try to sort of thread the needle thoughtfully. One thing that I think is often missing from software companies is setting expectations. How much time will it take to set something up? What are the easiest ways to set up a tool or process? And for a small business owner, often I don't have time to do all of the things that are needed. I hope I do. And so, one thought would be, how do you have a sort of out of the box package where you can easily pop in logos, text, etc., but you just need the owner to send you a quick 30-second video. So there's a piece around how do you keep it easy and simple and really set those expectations correctly for the small business owner. I think there's a second piece around, after looking at your website, I would love for you to showcase diverse examples. People might see a video on a saw or on really high risk, like OSHA level training videos or materials. But I love that you have in some of your images that it's also about training people on culture, on onboarding, on what is appropriate for a given company's culture. So I could see a CEO doing short videos, especially now with a remote workforce. So I'd love for you to have more diverse case studies and examples. My last thought would be, it's a great way, a great time right now to showcase PPE videos, help restaurant owners put together little videos to show their employees how to stay safe, put together any of that type of content or video, even putting together some for clients. Hey, when you come to our restaurant, here's what we expect. So I think painting that vision of use cases in a really nice, powerful, meaningful way could be really helpful. So those are just a couple of thoughts that I would throw out there. Expectation setting, really keep it simple. As a small business owner, I've bought software many times and I've hated it most of the time because expectations were wrong. And then I end up not using it. And some of that's on me, but some of it's also on the software company.
Makes sense. Thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Manny Fu, and then after Manny, Bob. Manny Fu. Okay, we'll come around.
There we go.
Okay, Manny.
So, Andrew, love your product. It's really very cool. Very cool. I could definitely use it. So, some thoughts. So I'm actually taking a sales course right now. It's really interesting because by nature, I'm a technician, not a salesperson. And one of the things that they say is, don't do any talking, right? Don't sell. Get the customer to need your product. So ask questions about, where they're losing time, where they're, not able to communicate, their product, things like that. Get them to need you, right? And then that way you don't have to sell it, right? So that's the first thing. But, so getting to your point about your questions, things that, that I look for when I'm looking for something for a customer of mine, is lack of pricing clarity. So looking at, excuse me, I don't have COVID, it's just allergies in the morning. So looking at your website, and looking at the pricing, I think you could add some clarity to some of the pricing, right? So for instance, like your small team, up to 49 users, $39 a month, and you've got a lot of, you've got, like what, 6 items listed under there. I would add a little clarity, like maybe like be able to click on the 10 gig system storage. Well, how many videos or how many whatevers does that hold, right? User accounts, right? How does that integrate? Is it that, everybody in the same company can integrate? Is there some kind of, like a super user kind of thing that can control access? Things like that, right? That'll save you a lot of time. I know those are kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but if you have clickable links there that just even elaborate at the high level, I think that'll help you a lot. So I don't know about your customer sales support, by phone. I don't know what the response time is, but one of the biggest frustrations I hear from my customers is that, it's either a long hold time or the person isn't very knowledgeable. They're just reading off a script, things like that, right? And they really don't get anywhere, right? And then when it comes to support, that a lot of times it's just chat or it's only email. They're not really talking to a live person. It takes a long time, something that could take, maybe 10 minutes to solve takes a week because, the response time isn't good. You cannot communicate as well over chat as you can by voice, right? So, and then, the trial period, how long is that? I saw you have a link for that on your website. It doesn't really say how long that is and whether that's full capability or limited capability. So then also reviews, right? When I'm looking for a product, I look for reviews. I didn't do a Google search for reviews. I don't know if you have that, but accurate reviews, robust reviews, not just somebody says, oh, I liked it. Well, why did you like it? What was it that you liked about it? Pros and cons. The last thing really is, whether you offer any kind of partnering to sell your product. So for instance, like I meet a lot of customers, right? And it's really easy. It would be really easy for me to sell your product. Get in there, not only use it for myself, but say, hey, because I do process and streamlining, business streamlining, to get this in there and introduce your product. And if I had some experience with it, then, I would be able to sell it for you, basically like, answer all the questions, mitigate all their problems. Like, Ken was talking about competitive analysis, risk, failure of risk, cost of implementation. I can answer all those questions, right? And then, I could also help you guys with what Phyllis said, which was, user buy-in, right? So you're right. She was right. A lot of buy-in is at the decision maker level, and then they don't get user buy-in, and then, it doesn't get used or used properly, and, it's a waste of time and money. So I think that's basically all I had. But I know that's a lot of information, but hopefully.
No, I appreciate that, Manny. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we do actually we just started a partner program last month. So we don't have a ton of information on our website, and I'm sure it'd be hard to find. But yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone interested in about that. And as we figure out what a partner program looks like, we're kind of in that early stage of, just kind of figuring out the details and what works for both parties, that kind of stuff, but in progress for sure.
Yeah, so let's definitely connect, because I can actually put you in touch with a non-competitor of yours that you could probably team up together really well. They do. We can talk about it offline, but
yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
what they do a lot of partnering, and I do partnering with them and other companies too. So we can talk offline.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you, Manny. Next, we have Bob, and after Bob, we have Tony and Melinda Siegel.
Hi, Andrew. This is Bob Prothero. How you doing?
Good. Hey, Bob.
Good. Hey, I love the origin story. Actually, you described the innovation or invention process really well, being presented with a problem and then finding a unique solution to it. And I just love to hear that. I used to buy a lot of software. I used to run a $200 million a year online advertising platform. And I had the technical operations as well as the development teams working for me. And we bought a lot of software. And it really, for me, the good and the bad of it, a lot of it came down to what type of software sale it was. If it was a very hands-on, ongoing support, high support type of software product, like, maybe a financial systems package, versus just a kind of a learn on your own or kind of industry standard software package where maybe your software developers had industry training on it. It really came down to the type of sale and the type of software product. I guess I don't know a lot about your company and how you sell it, how much of it is just people leafing through online documentation and comparing it with other products, or how much of it is over the phone or chat. But I think if you're the type of product that lends itself to people going through comparison documents of competing products and matrices with boxes checked and whatever, having really robust documentation that they can look through, I think is obviously wanted. For me, personally, if it was something I could figure out on my own, looking through documentation that I trusted, I preferred that than talking to a salesperson, because the salesperson tends to spin things their way versus what I like to learn on my own. So I think beyond that, other people have really covered most of the things. The other thing that regarding the good and the bad, one thing that wasn't clear to me is how much of your offering is post-sales. Like, do you help with the editing of the documents or the videos and the tutorials and the training, or is that left to the customer to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so our platform is self-serve. So mainly we make it super easy for the small business owner, the manager, the stakeholders in the business to actually create the documentation. However, we do work with, we call them success coaches, which are really just partners of ours who actually go on site and help them with the implementation and a kickstart if needed. So it's really up to the business owner, whatever they're more comfortable with. If they know if they buy a license for software and no one, they'll sit on it for a long time and no one will implement it. We do partner with business consultants, or we call them coaches, to help kind of kickstart the use and implementation of our software.
All right. And then from a technical implementation standpoint, the actual training material that's created, is that easily served enough from the client servers, or do you offer infrastructure to actually deliver the videos and the training?
Yeah, so we're hosted in AWS, so it's all cloud-based. Access it through phones, tablets, connected to the internet.
And given the volume of, I guess that gets down to kind of per installation pricing, but do you have tiered pricing based on the amount of infrastructure usage they would take up?
Yeah, exactly. So we bill on two things mainly: the amount of users accessing your content, and then how much content you have. The two things we get a bill from AWS as well.
Right. All right. No, excellent. I love the product. I think it's a great idea, and wish you the best of luck.
Hey, thanks so much, Bob.
Hey, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt. So Andrew, real quick, just coattailing what Bob said real quick. You should do an FAQ link to answer.
Yeah, I just wrote that down, actually. I saw your comment in there. So That's a great piece of feedback. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bob. Next we have Melinda Siegel, and then we have Tony Barnett.
Great presentation. Really loved what you went through and how you described your pain points and your challenge right now of what do you do in the sales process for getting software in. And I thought of one person I want to introduce you to. It's Henry Hunter. He has a new software platform that he's introducing for sales people. And I thought you guys could share a lot of war stories and things like that. So from that thought, I realized you want to talk to other software developers that are stuck. One easy way to do that would be to do a search on LinkedIn for software developers and see what companies that they're with and see if they're manufacturing companies. From the thought of manufacturing companies, I started to think about a lot of the organizations I worked, because I was the link between marketing and sales for a lot of years and the customer. And a lot of these companies, like the Warner Lamberts, which aren't around anymore, they're part of other organizations, used to bring in their salespeople once a month, and they would train. So if you start looking at the CPG industry, consumer packaged goods industry, also consumer products, as I describe it here, a lot of those organizations have sales forces, and they need to communicate with their sales force on a day-to-day basis. And it would be a great tool for the VP of sales, senior VP of sales, as he's communicating with all of his sales reps and management in the field, where they would be able to have a tool that they could use where they, that's visual, because I relate to the visual. I'm exceptionally visual. The other thing that I was thinking was for other types of remote sales forces. A lot of organizations are doing things, but maybe this can be an add-on tool that might make sense for an organization. Figuring out a way to get it into some of the other software that organizations are using so it complements and they can easily get on and communicate with their sales organizations and their people in different offices and actually globally. I do think the partnering is a really great idea, and from different levels, because as you look at partnering, you can look at what other companies are trying to reach the same organizations you are and share your experiences and your clients, because you're selling something different. And that's a lot of what Henry does with Insider. But the other option with all of that is that you'll be able to go to companies that have remote people in the field. You can go to manufacturing companies in your backyard are a great way to pilot some of these things, because a lot of their organizations sell to distributors and distributors sell to the end user. So it could be a very viable tool in sales to really bring in more ROI for organizations.
Thank you, Melinda.
Awesome. Thank you.
Tony, and then after Tony, we have Dan Lender.
Andrew, I'm going to be really quick and to the point on this. After looking at your Capterra profile and looking at the plus 6,000 other competitors that you have in your marketplace, I would suggest what you do is you find an industry niche. Jen kind of touched on it briefly with, say, restaurants and having the app available for training restaurant employees, personnel. But I think if you find a specific industry that is a perfect niche that you have good traction in, focus just on that one. Having been using Capterra for longer than I want to admit, one of the things that people search for is they don't search for training software. They search for training software for restaurants, or they search for training software for lawnmower services, okay? They get very specific to their industry niche. And if you can fill or find a niche that works for you and focus on that, and then have your marketing and your sales focus on just that, you'll probably have a lot more rapid success with the app. Because looking at all of the different apps that are out there that are in the similar court that you're in, you're just going to be a wash in the ocean. But if you focus on one niche, you'll be higher rated in that area. There.
Appreciate that, Tony. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks, Tony. Dan Lender.
Thank you. Andrew, a great presentation. Thank you for the information. Before I founded Golden Rule Home Watch, I was a very successful enterprise software salesperson in the DC metro area. So the biggest thing that I would see frequently, and our company was frequently guilty of it, was delivering the wrong message to the wrong person. I mean, this is going to reiterate a lot of what Alan stated. But just making sure that, you know, if it's the money person holds the money, making sure that there's a good ROI case. Make sure it's a simple math test that if you spend 1,000, you're going to save 10,000 or make 10,000. If it's the implementer, it's easy to implement and show them the steps. If it's the user, they want to see ease of use. It's the right message for the right person, and you can solve their problem. A lot of times, you know, we would sell software, but the client wouldn't want to buy any consulting, or they wouldn't want to have any help because they're smart people, they can do it themselves. And we knew that they would screw it up and then not give us a good reference and not buy anything ever again. So we would almost insist that they used our help, right? And so it could be in the form of, okay, you know, buy the product or have the product and we'll help you implement it. And then we'll come back in a week, a month, whatever, to do follow-ups. And so because their success is your success, because you probably want to get, you know, positive references and things like that. So making help almost as valuable as the product itself. And again, the money person is going to be looking for differentiators and that simple math, because if the value's there, they'll spend whatever, right? If they perceive your product can help them address their problem and make their pain go away. So anyway, I hope this is helpful.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Right. So thank you, Andrew. That was a great presentation. I am going to pass this over to Donnell Jones, who's going to ask you the last final big question. I just want to, before I do that, I just want to touch base. I actually have run a childcare and I use a sales software called Childcare CRM. So touching on Tony, it would be good for you to find that niche, because I know that CRM, like that sales thing that they have put in there, is really big in our industry. So if you find that industry, you can really grow, I think. And so I think Tony touched on a good point. So moving on to Donnell. Donnell Jones.
Yes, I was on mute. Sorry about that. Andrew, great software. I think it's amazing. I really like it, and I'm definitely going to share your software with people that I know that would need it. I would caution you, your business started in 2019, and you're casting a very wide net. The best thing that you can do is build relationships with the organizations that you know, and then continue to grow. And make sure that they enjoy what you're doing and them casting that out. And so, like they said, it's riches and niches. So continue in that niche. But the real question that I have for you is, how can 1 Million Cups support you in your success?
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for all your feedback. Don already has been very supportive, and I appreciate you guys letting me share my message today. Love if you have any further feedback, and I see I'm going to spend some time kind of dissecting the chat today, because I feel like I probably missed a lot of stuff in there too. But also, like, if you guys have any companies that you think could be or connections that you think we should talk to, that's where we're at right now, is just trying to find our next partner, our next potential customer. So anything like that, we appreciate. But and we'll keep working here, trying to niche down. And thank you guys so much for your feedback. It was awesome being here today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Can we go to the next slide? All right, great, thank you. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for another highly stimulating and educational meeting this morning. Andrew, I hope our feedback was helpful to you. We will definitely get the copy of the chat to you so you can go through them. And it was super helpful for me just listening on some of the comments and feedback and Q&As. So we have a great line of presenters through, I guess, end of August. Next week, we'll have Ken from Tyson's Regional Toastmasters. And we also have a number of applicants in our pipeline. But obviously, there are a number of open slots in September. And so if you or know someone who can benefit from the collective brain power of 25 plus experts in this room, I'd encourage everyone, you to either apply online, go to 1millioncups.com/Fairfax, or encourage the people that you know could benefit to apply. Next slide. All right. So pretty much covered this. Definitely continue to attend next week and apply if you think you would benefit from this meeting. Next slide. All right. So this time I'd like to ask if anyone have an event they would like to share that could benefit the team, the group. Please let us know what those events are, and so we'll put it on our calendars.
John, I have a quick update. For those of you who know, I've been intimately involved with the Reston Chambers B2G trade show every year, and next week is the virtual conference. If you want to go to the Reston Chambers website, if you'd like to participate, I think they still have some sponsor opportunities to get your company noticed in the group. But also if you want to do the matchmaking and virtual networking that they're putting up, go to the Reston Chambers site, look at the B2G trade show and take a look at what they have. It's going to be a good portion of the day, starting in the morning on the 27th, that's Thursday next week, and running through into the afternoon. So it's a good opportunity if you want to do business with government contractors or with the government.
All right, thank you for that. Does anyone else have events they'd like to share with the group?
Hey, John, it's Rosemary. Just want to remind folks, if you're interested in learning more about Gravitate, today is Wednesday at noon. I hold my weekly webinar, and I am posting the registration link. Hope to see a few of you today or even next week. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Rosemary.
So I live up in Maryland. If there are any folks that are interested, that are in Maryland or interested in, I'm a member of a Maryland networking group. If you're interested, give me a buzz. I'll post real quick my contact information again. Just reach out.
Great.
Then I wanted to invite everybody monthly networking event that starts actually tomorrow at 11 a.m. The organization is eWomen International, but men and women are welcome. It's a great networking event. And the thing that I love most, besides that we're all focused on building our business, is that you actually get some small breakout rooms so you can connect, which is always a challenge in some of these virtual networking events. You're guaranteed to meet people that you want to know. So I would love to see you. I put the link in the chat. So tomorrow at 11. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tamar. Anyone else?
So John, this is Dan Linder. Tony mentioned the Reston Chamber. There are a number of events coming up, and I will put the link in the chat for the events. And we have one of the network nights is via Zoom, of course, is next Tuesday. So I will put the link in the chat. And we have a very fun group and multiple breakout rooms. And so it's a lot of fun. So I would encourage you to, if you're thinking about joining the chamber, come to one of the events.
Great.